going? Am I good back here? Today I kind of wanted to make a little bit of a different style video because this is probably the last time that you're ever gonna see this 350Z on my channel, because unfortunately I've already made a price agreement on selling the Z, as I've you know, I've had my fun with it, but right now I'm not really super keen on keeping what I'd refer to it as a more purpose-built vehicle, as you know, I'm not really ready to start diving into drifting and that kind of thing, because I don't have the finances to support such an expensive operating cost sport, I guess you could say. So I just kind of wanted to do a rundown on what I think, what's best about the Z, why you should get one, why you shouldn't get one, the best and kind of the worst things that I think this car has to offer. We'll just start at the front because that's where we're at right now, and I'm sitting down enjoying the sun a little bit. So the 350Z, as you know, is it's a rear wheel drive sports coupe. Doesn't have rear seats or anything, and it's a hatchback. It's front engine, obviously. It's a Nissan, Datsun, Infiniti. G35, same thing as this, same engine. This is a 2003, and it is a touring edition, and that's the first thing I want to touch on, is this car comes in 3 different packages. You have base model, touring, and track. This is a touring edition. That includes Brembo brakes. I don't know if you can see the wheel on this side, big old Brembos up front and in the rear. Viscous LSD in the booty end of this car makes it extremely fun to drive, and if you're into drifting, is a very good platform to start on, as you don't necessarily have to get a welded diff, as you already have a viscous limited slip differential, or the VLSD. Since it is an 03, it is a bit of an older car, but you do have projector headlight stock with HIDs, so the lighting is pretty decent for its age, but could be a little bit better in my opinion, as they are small size projectors, so they don't light as much as some newer cars would and aren't quite as bright if you haven't upgraded. Under the hood we have the VQ35DE, the first VQ in the Z family, or G35, G37 family. With the VQ35DE, the first gen, they do like to burn oil, as the plug tube seals and the valve covers both enjoy leaking from factory, but are not very expensive to replace. If you are looking into getting a 350Z, make sure that they're either not leaking or you're prepared to do the valve covers. It's not a hard job, but the whole intake and everything has to come off the top, so it's a bit of a pain in the butt to do. VQ35 isn't a very highly modifiable engine. The first VQs from the factory made 287 horsepower at the crank, but are not very tunable unless you're going towards forced induction. The chassis itself of the Z and the G35 are quite modifiable on their own. Just don't be looking to do a whole lot with the VQ unless you have very deep pockets, but if you have deep pockets, you'll probably be going away from a VQ anyways, and you'll be doing a swap. Stock 287 horsepower in the first 350Z is more than enough to drive. The horsepower goes up as the years go later on, as you get into the rev up engines. Mine isn't tuned. I had a plenum spacer, didn't really make too much of a difference. It's supposed to increase air intake capacity, which in turn allegedly increases torque and is helpful if you're going to tune it. Working on the VQ is a bit of a pain in the ass, which is one of the cons of this car. I'm a mechanic myself, so I do all my own work on my cars. There's not a lot of engine space in these cars, and I should actually pop the hood. So as I said, not a lot of engine space in this car. There's maybe about 5 inches on each side of the engine cover next to the valve covers to get your hands down in there, so it is a lot of dismantling if you're looking into modifying or replacing anything. Belts are easily accessible. That is one thing that's good about this car, and since this is the first gen VQ, you only have 1 throttle body and 1 intake pipe on this side rather than the 2 that they do on the later models, so you do have more access on this side without taking out as much. You have separated battery and brake fluid and clutch master cylinder. So you have covers individually, both of these. So your battery's in here along with a couple of fuse panels and that kind of thing. And then you also have your brake master and your clutch master on the other side as well. Nothing really else fancy to talk about underneath the hood. Typical VQ. Nothing super interesting under here. Now this color, talk about the paint a little bit. So this color is called Brickyard purple or burgundy or whatever you want to call it. I think it's a little bit more of a purple color when it's sitting directly in the sun. It's one of the rarer colors that this car came in, and I've only seen 2 other ones in this color. One of which was a touring edition configuration, and the other one was base model and it was auto, so that's unfortunate. But the only other rare color compared to this is the sunburst orange that this car came in. Yeah, I like this better. It's a lot more subtle. It looks good at nighttime, looks good in the sun. Really hard to see scratches unless you look really close into the paint. All right, so now we're at the booty end of the 350Z. Like I mentioned, in the rear we do have a viscous LSD. We also do have the Brembos in the back on the rear brakes as well. But one of the best things about the 350Z is, since it is a hatchback, you have a massive rear window. I've heard some people say that the visibility in the Z isn't that great, but I kind of beg to differ. For a coupe, it is not bad at all. The rear window height is quite tall, but I will say the side little like windows you have on the sides behind the doors aren't that great for when you're backing out of driveways and in like tight situations. That's the only visibility limitation you kind of have in this car. There's not really a lot of blind spots other than this big corner right here, but the separation between the rear quarter window and the glass is like, the rear glass is about 9 inches, so that's the only real blind spot you have. One of the biggest pet peeves I have about this car is, since it is a hatchback, you don't have a lot of depth to the storage you have in this car. The max height you can really have for anything in here is in this section of the trunk rather than the actual close part. You're not really gonna fit anything majorly large in here. There are some people out there that have done the rear strut delete so that you can have more storage space, but you're just hacking up your car at that point, so there's really no sense in doing that. But I personally think the hatchback is kind of cool. I mean, you can get right up in here, and if it's raining, you can sit in your trunk at a car meet or something and you're covered from the rain. You can laugh at all your friends. That's cool. The thing about being a hatchback though is that hatches do weigh more than trunks, so it is a little bit of a heavier door. It's easy to open. It's got hydraulic struts on both sides. They like to fail, so might need to get them replaced at some point. As for the factory exhaust, not that great. Doesn't sound amazing. Factory exhaust is extremely quiet. Don't be that asshole that straight pipes your VQ because it sounds really, really bad. Get a true dual exhaust and keep mufflers on it. Get a nice tone. Don't straight pipe your VQ. Don't be that guy. Moving inside the car now. One of the biggest things I really dislike about the 350Z, there's absolutely nothing on the door panels. It's about a foot and a bit of plastic, and it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel luxurious at all. Door handles suck. They're plastic. Same side, nothing, absolutely nothing over here. Glove box isn't in the front, it's in the rear, which I think is kind of weird, as this is just wasted space at this point. You could have had storage back here and up front. I don't know why they did that. Touring edition has this little pocket for absolutely nothing. There's supposed to be a nav in here in the other versions. Good thing about this car, stock Bose speakers, subwoofer behind driver's seat, speakers in the back, in the front, separated tweeters. I don't know if it'll focus, but there's a tweeter right in there. Sunglasses storage that fits absolutely no pairs of sunglasses because it's like an inch thick. Comes in a 6-speed rather than a 5-speed, which is absolutely awesome for driving on the highway. Heated seats, which is awesome. They work good. The seats themselves are pretty good. The driver's seat has this weird little like crotch piece here to keep your legs separated, but it's not very high, and I don't know, it's kind of weird. I hate the steering wheel. It's absolutely disgusting. You have cruise control and that kind of thing. I don't know. I feel like they could have done something cooler with this steering wheel. The gauges are nice. Very driver focused. Pods is adjustable with the steering wheel, so your gauges move with your wheel, which is cool. I guess important gauges, you have your oil pressure, battery voltage, programmable for speed, fuel economy, lap times, tire pressures if you have tire pressure monitoring systems, and some other stuff I can't quite remember. Climate control is annoying as hell because of the whole fucking auto settings that everything has. Not much else on the inside. You have garage door openers on the mirrors and electronic auto dimming. Other than that, pretty basic, nothing else super awesome on this interior. Very, very basic. Very basic headliner, very basic trunk. Just some more storage pockets, rear cigarette lighter, and yeah, that's about it on the inside. So all in all, my recommendation is if you're looking at getting a Z, you have to think about what you really want it for. This car isn't meant for driving in the rain or in the snow, obviously, because it's rear wheel drive. But if you're looking on building, you know, like a track car or that kind of thing, or you're wanting to get into drifting, or you want something to build, this is a very good platform to go after, as the chassis modability is extremely high, swap capabilities are good, the VQ is not a bad motor to drive on completely stock. You know, if you want an exhaust and an intake and you want to go that route, fine, that is absolutely perfectly fine. If you can handle the very basic nature of this car on the inside, because that's where you spend your time in this car, you know, that's perfectly fine too. The transmission in this car is good, very strong. It's used in a lot of swaps. People love the CDO transmissions, and I really don't know why, because they have a lot of synchro problems, but they can handle power very well apparently. You know, if you're looking at 240s and that kind of thing, and you have the money to up to a 350Z, even getting one, you know, if you're looking for a 240 to beat on and drift and that kind of thing, get a beat on 350Z. It's gonna last longer, even though the VQ, it's probably gonna have a little bit more problems than a KA, because the KA was originally built to be a truck motor. This motor comes out of so many different cars in the Nissan lineup that getting parts for it isn't hard, and it has more power stock. You can huck this thing around corners with the VLSD, and it's just an overall better drift platform in my opinion, if you can afford it. And it's a great summer car too. I wouldn't recommend getting a convertible just because, you know, you're eliminating the trunk space at that point, as the depth isn't going to change and now you're going to have a convertible to deal with. They leak. I'm not a huge fan of soft tops, and so that's just kind of my opinion. All in all, the 350Z and the G35, they're good cars. Between the two, it's just styling preference. Exact same transmission, exact same engine. You know, it's a good platform to go after. They're good cars. I really haven't had any problems with mine. So like I said, if you're looking for a fun car to drive on the street in the sun in good weather, it's a good car. Drift platform, good car. Track car, good car. Daily driver, it's okay. Mileage is good on the highway, but in the city, it's not that great. It is a V6. Takes me about almost $100 Canadian to fill this tank in this thing, and that is with 91. This car does take premium because it is high compression. That's just kind of like my opinion on things that are good and things that are bad about this car. Take it with a grain of salt, and I hope this can help you kind of make a decision on if you are looking at 350Zs or G35s. But if you're new here and you want to see some hoonage now that the weather is nice outside, new car is going to be coming pretty dang quick here. Unfortunately, it is time to say goodbye to the 350Z, so peace out, brother. And I will catch you guys in the next one. Subscribe if you're new, and like this video, share it with your friends. So peace out. Or I need to figure out an outro or something, but anyways, peace out. Let's go.